No, that's true. So I'm going to record this so that we have a recording that anyone wants to get this afterwards can just let me know in chat that they'd like to receive a copy of this. But what I want to do is go through the whole nutrition module from the member view to the management view, because there's so much extra detail that we've recently put into the system. I'm going to start with at the location level. You can go into any location and you can have it unique to a location, and you can set the nutrition values that are coming into your plans based on total carbohydrates or digestive carbohydrates, which effectively means your total carbohydrates minus your fiber, so that you're getting a lower carbohydrate on what your body is able to actually digest. So if you switch it to digestive, then it's going to be your total calories minus your carbs. We've also added in the capability where you can put in a unique food block, and you can only add one of these. We are going to be adding an additional food block type called supplementation food block that will go into your food block plan. So you have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, a single unique plan, which the only two people that are using that unique plan right now are doing it for meal replacement shake. And the reason that they created that other profile was they didn't want to have the shakes that they prescribe to their clients come up as a breakfast or as a snack, because what they're designed for is a meal replacement. And so they could put that after dinner, before dinner, in between breakfast and lunch, whatever the case might be, and they labeled it meal replacement shake. And so you have only one. So make sure that if you do want to have a unique naming structure to your plan, that you're only doing that single type of plan. And know also that the other fifth category for supplement block will be coming in somewhat soon. Already working on it, already doing the specs for it, and I've already been working with a supplement company to establish that. What that block is going to do from the consumer view is it's going to create the capability that when you go into the nutrition module, you're going to have whatever blocks that you've built into the plan. So here you can see breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and you would have an additional block for supplementation. Inside that supplementation, you're going to have the capability as a company, and Brian, this is going to be of great interest to Heinen's as well, but you're going to be able to build out packages that this supplement, and it can be different brands. So you might say, I really believe that this is the best multivitamin, and here's the best fish oil or essential oils or whatever you wanted to add to that package as a base level men's health supplement plan or a women's health supplement plan. And then you can add additional supplements to those and create additional packages for sports performance, for weight gain, for weight loss, for joint issues. And so when you create those packages, you're going to be able to select and apply them to different nutrition plans and different workout plans, as well as different need plans. So if I go back to my profile and I go back to my articles and videos that I receive that are custom to me, all of these are going to be possible for you to create supplement packages that apply to them. So you could have a diabetic package, you could have a weight loss package, you could have a depression package, you could have a weight gain package, and you could add all of those into that supplement block and have the ability to say that when somebody comes into their preferences, or they've done an online health risk assessment, or they've done a blood work score, any of those things can trigger, here's some recommended packages that you should consider. And if you guys, all of you guys on the phone certainly know this, that you can't prescribe unless you're a doctor. So the whole phrase behind it will be, here's some things that we recommend that you explore, and that not that we're saying you have to take these, because then you get into liability issues that obviously we all want to avoid. But you can create those recommended packages for somebody to explore and look at and determine if that was the right package for them. It can include the same brands or different brands that go into those packages that you want to create. So it obviously gives you the opportunity to pick your best of breed. If you've got a company that you think has the best multivitamin and a different company that does the fish oils, or the same companies that do both, you can create those packages. So those will be coming into the nutrition plan on the consumer side. Not only will it tell you what to consume inside of that plan if they pick it, but it'll also tell you recommended times to consume it. So take your multivitamin first thing in the morning with breakfast, and take your essential oils before you go to sleep in the evening, as an example, would be what you would recommend in that block. Any questions on that from the consumer view and how we're splicing those apart? All right, good. All right, so then on the back-end management tool, when you get into the nutrition module, it's underneath the fitness tools, which includes both the workout and the nutrition module. And then you click on the nutrition manager, which then brings in all of these, which are new plans, the ones that have the longer definitions in this case. The top one is one that they have created at this group called Heinen's grocery stores, and the bottom groups are ones that we created and are available to all of our customers now. So every customer that comes into the platform has the opportunity to pick meals from those various CPF ranges to accomplish the various goals. And if someone doesn't know what those are, they have a short definition here that we will be expanding out, that there will be a read more, and it'll go into maybe even a picture and a very extensive, more full description of what is a ketogenic plan. And so in that particular case, they'll talk about the low carbohydrate, possibly even the digestive or net carbs, and they'll talk about the 14 hours of fasting that they like to have in their plan in between dinner and breakfast the next morning. So all of those types of things are part of how you can build these out. These are inside of your platform that you will have the ability to delete or hide any of them that you don't want. You'll also have the ability to add more meals that match the CPF range and the tags. So we have a tag for diabetic as an example. And if you create a meal that's a 40-30-30 meal and that qualifies as a low glycemic index meal that you wanted to add to this diabetic menu, and Brian in Melanie's case, she could add 87 different meals to every one of these categories, meals that she likes, that she's built, that she believes in, whether she copies our meal and modifies it and resaves it, or she builds it from scratch, whatever makes her happy on that. So inside of the back-end management tools, go ahead.
Don, when you click one of those, will it typically pull up a 3-meal-a-day plan?
Not always. So as an example, if I click on the ketogenic plan, it brings up 3 meals. If I click on the paleo, it'll bring up 4 meals. If I click on the low carb, it brings up 5. It depends on the type of program and how you want to space the meals out based on the goal that they're trying to reach. A lot of the people are trying to get to eating every 3 hours so that you've got a less of a insulin spike in the diabetic case as an example. And so you have a little bit more steady foods coming into the system that are typically low glycemic index for those foods. But again, you can control all of that based on however you want to build the meals through the menu plan. So if I go into any of these meals, so like the healthy eating plan that they have here, they've created this plan unique to them. So this is a 40-30-30 plan, as you can see. You can have different carbohydrate, protein, and fat percentages per meal. So if you wanted to, and in some cases I see nutritionists building meal plans where they have a relatively low carbohydrate breakfast, or lower than typical, I should say. So they'll start out with a 40-30-30 breakfast, and they'll go to potentially a 60-20-20 lunch or snack, and then they'll taper off and go with a low carb dinner so that their client is getting a little less carbohydrates into their sleep for the evening. And again, you can set these up any way you want. It doesn't have to fall under one specific range like this one does. It can be changing per meal on the CPF range. We've also added 3 more CPF ranges to the plan. We have a second ketogenic 10% carbohydrate as opposed to the one that we have done for another client that's 5%. So the ketogenic 10, 25, 65 was added. The 20, 40, 40 was added for a low carb plan so that you still had a decent amount of carbs, not down to the ketogenic level, and a decent amount of proteins and healthy fats. And then the 55, 20, 25 was another one that was added, which, believe it or not, the Diabetes Association actually recommends that CPF range for diabetics, which I really don't understand. It doesn't seem to make much sense to me. And the nutritionists that I've talked to don't seem to understand it either. That's a lot of carbohydrates to give somebody that you want to have in a low carb diet or a lower carb diet. So anyway, but you can set them up.
Don,
go ahead.
All of these meals were prepared by the dietitian that you just hired, right? Or you hired this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all 7 of those were done by a registered dietitian. Her name is Michelle Ricker.
Which seems to be huge, given that that's one area most personal trainers really shouldn't know much about, or do know something, but they're not professionally trained.
Right, and the beauty on this is that anyone who picks one of these programs is going to get a good quality diet. They're going to get good quality foods, and so anything that they pick, even if they pick ketogenic versus low carb versus zone diet, depending on what goes along with it, all of those can be a very effective diets. So you've got all these fads that come out with some new wrinkle to it and claim that they're the next magic pill to getting people into better health. But the reality is it's a combination of diet, eating clean foods, and getting decent amount of exercise to go along with it is always going to be what people are going to tell you is the best result. And depending on who you talk to, most people agree that 70 to 80% of the success in people is diet. So it's a big factor. And so it's something that we've really put a lot of effort into. And like you said, Ed, there's not a lot of trainers that really have a very, very full understanding of what is needed there. The other thing that you'll also notice
there are fewer trainers who will admit it.
Yes, exactly. Well, as we've talked about many times, the one thing that is common between all trainers is ego. They all think that their ideas and everything that they do is the best, no matter which one you talk to. They always have the best methods, unless maybe you catch them in the first couple months out of school. But again, that's not a negative knock on trainers. Because most of the trainers are very smart and they've done a lot of education and a lot of knowledge. They're just extremely passionate about how they do things, why they do things, and the way they do things. And we've got a couple of trainers that are on the phone now that would probably admit that most of the trainers out there are very, very driven to a specific methodology and philosophy of how they want their people to eat. And it's usually what worked for them or what worked for some of their clients, which is fine. All right, so keeping going on the nutrition module. So what you're able to do from the back-end management tools, which is where we are, you can create as many different programs as you want. The programs can be unique per day. What I'm finding is that there's a couple of people that are teaching like high school sports, football in particular, where they load up the carbohydrates on Fridays when it's game day. And then they keep it more lean on Monday through Wednesday. And I have a couple of other clients that have a heavy emphasis on protein shakes, where they might have I have one client that actually prescribes 3 protein shakes a day and a normal type dinner. But the nice way that you can build that out is you can do Monday through Friday that they might be on that shake regiment, and then Saturday and Sunday they have normal breakfast, lunches, and dinners that, you know, what you're basically telling them to do is, look, eat clean and eat good quality foods for the week. And then we'll give you a little bit of leeway on Saturday that you can eat a normal, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the family and not be, you know, so guilty that you're eating normal quality foods instead of the shakes that might be only 300 calories instead of the 400, 500, 600 that someone might eat in a meal. So anyway, so any questions on that at all? And also, Brian, I don't know if we've even talked about this yet or not, but we're also adding in the capability of tracking superfoods for you guys, because I know that you have a lot of your food items that have a value that you call superfoods, and we're going to be able to put those in as tracking mechanisms and tags in the meals, so that you can actually prescribe and create a superfood dense meal plan. And you're on mute. If you do need to talk, go ahead and unmute yourself if you have any questions, anybody that's on the line here. All right, so continuing on, somebody had a question? Nope, okay. All right, so continuing on, basically you have the ability on a management level to customize each one of the food blocks that you want in the day, how many days, what the carb, protein, and fat is, what the percentage of calories that they have in that particular meal. And so there's two different options here. There's a percentage and there's a caloric amount. So if you have a milk or a protein shake, and you know that it's 300 calories, you can set that breakfast is going to be under 310 calories as an example, where you would go just above it. And then you would put in the tag of, you know, gluten-free shake or protein shake or whatever you wanted to call it. Or you can go percentage, which takes, in this case, 24% of their total calories for the day, which is obviously going to vary depending on the size and the goal and the individual person. One person might be 1,500 calories,
Don,
another might be 3,000.
Did you show Brian where the calorie count comes from on his?
I don't think I covered that when I was on the consumer model, but it comes from a formula called the Harris-Benedict formula, which factors in what amount of calories that you need, which part of the sign-up process is understanding your occupational activity, your daily activity. And then if you add any type of events to that, like soccer practice or weightlifting or Zumba class or spinning class, our system will add a reasonable percentage of those calories depending on what your goal is. If your goal is to gain weight, it'll add calories to that amount. If your goal is to maintain, it'll be the same. If your goal is to lose weight, it'll still give you a deficit. So if that activity was going to burn 600 calories and you were in a weight loss program, it might only give you an additional 380 calories as an example. So it still wants to keep you in that deficit, but it's going to give you more calories so that you can continue to perform all the activities that you have in your typical days. All right, so you create the food blocks, you add in the blocks, the include or exclude blocks of anything that you have inside your system. And what that does is it triggers that those meals will then come into that consumer's plan on the front end that match those tags and the CPF ranges of the foods. So in the superfoods, in the food area, this is where you would add any ingredients that you cannot find inside of our database. And so you can see here, there's actually 2 pages of foods. These must be Heinen's brands. It looks like these were all added by your group. So all of these foods will come in and you can see that there's a first and a next page. So these must be all things that you guys build recipes around, or Melanie builds recipes around, that she couldn't find in the USDA nutrient database, or she wanted to have her specific measurements in it. Little surprising that they don't say the brand with it. Let's open up one of these and see. So Garden of Life apparently is one of the brands that you carry. so that she does have this in here with a brand of what that product is, and then all the nutrient levels that go with that. It does look like she needs to fill out some more data on that. For whatever reason, she didn't fill out sugar and fiber and everything else on this particular product, which she does need to do to be accurate. One of the things that we have recently done because of our net carb scenario or our digestive carb is it's becoming essential or required that they fill out at the very minimum the fiber amount, which will probably trigger her to doing the rest of the data that's in here. All right, so then back to the food and the nutrition manager. The other item, so once you add any food products that you can't find in the USDA nutrient database, then you create recipes. And the recipes are created by you going into add recipe or modify a recipe and adding any type of ingredient that you want to add to this. So if I wanted to add salmon, I can search for salmon. It shows me all the different Atlantic and smoked and chum and whatever else that I wanted to put in. When I add that ingredient, it'll put it, let's see here. Not sure why that didn't add that. I'm going to have to circle back and figure out what's going on there, because it should have added that ingredient into the list and then have the ability for me to put in measurements of that ingredient. I'm very curious on that one. I just used it this morning and added something, so I'm not sure why that's not pulling it in. So in any ingredient that you want to add, should be able to drop into this area. So you could put in banana or strawberry or anything else that you want to put in, add the ingredient, and it'll drop it in. And again, I need to figure out what might be the problem is you may not have the permission levels as a nutritionist, which is stopping you from building a nutrition plan, Brian. So I'll have to check on that to see if you are put in as an expert as well. Obviously, we want to control whoever's building this, that they have nutrition credentials. So that is one factor that could have come into play here with that not coming in. So once you build out the recipe, you can put in 1 item or 14 items, and then what quantity of item, if it's a teaspoon or a cup or a medium-sized banana or whatever you're adding to it, because it's all linked to either your food items or the USDA nutrient database, it's going to bring in all the nutritional data automatically into that recipe. So once you create a recipe, you can then combine multiple recipes together to make a meal. And the most common thing that I use as an example is teriyaki chicken, brown rice, and steamed vegetables. In our system, we consider to be 3 unique recipes combined together to make a meal. And the meals are what go out to the client. And so once you build out a meal, and again, here you can search for chicken as an example, and it'll bring in all types of chicken. And if you, right now, all of these meals in here are marked as global, meaning they're coming from our database. But if I go into that meal and I wanted to change it, let's just say that I wanted to make it a different CPF range. So I can go in here and say, well, this is actually closer to 40-30-30. And I can save this as a 40-30-30 item because it's already matching that. I like the rice that's chosen, the Asian chicken and the garlic carrots all sound good together. And then I can save this to my company and locations. And when I do that, it'll save all of the meal items at a company level. And notice also, before I jump out of here, that what we recommend is that you build all of the meals at the smallest increment that makes sense, which is typically 1 ounce of whatever the protein source is. Notice also this is only 137 calories. It shows you that it's total carbohydrates instead of digestive carbohydrates, so you know that you're working with a 40-30-30, including the fiber. So the reason that we want you to build these at the lowest common size is that 137 calories can multiply up twice or 3 times or 5 times, depending on the amount of calories that somebody would be getting into their dinner. So this recipe would then be eligible to qualify and fit into somebody's meal plan that might be 1 or 2 or 5 or 7 times this caloric amount for their dinner. But this recipe will continue to multiply up, continue to stay in the CPF range that's marked out here. And the goal is to get it as close as you can to the numbers over here. But then when I save that meal, it saves that meal to this specific location. So now when I go back to my nutrition manager, go back to meals, you'll notice that all the meals in here are global, with the exception of that one Asian chicken that I just resaved at 40-30-30. And so that would be considered a Heinen's meal. You could tag it any way you needed to, low glycemic index, in this particular case, zone nutrition. So you could actually go back into this meal, and if you were to categorize this as with a tag of zone, then what's going to happen is that meal, because it's 40-30-30 along with all of the other zone nutrition meals, this seems like a very healthy based meal. So once I save that, that meal is now eligible for a Chinese or Japanese poultry lunch or dinner that's 40-30-30 in the CPF range and has the zone tag to it. Does that all make sense to everybody? So everything needs to match up is basically what it boils down to. The reason that we do it that way is because we found that the nutritionists that are out there want to be very specific about the meals that come into their plans. So now when I go to my nutrition manager and I go to my meal plans, you'll see that in this particular zone diet that we have down here in the bottom, if I duplicate that as an example, and I go in here, you'll see that all of these meals that are coming into this plan, actually I don't see the include tag of zone selected here, which is interesting. There it is. So this one should actually be selected as a zone plan. And then any meals that have that zone piece in it would now come in as part of that zone diet. Any questions? All right, well, good. That means I did a pretty thorough job of going through that with everybody. And at this point, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.